impeachment proceedings now, because these judges are way past the pale of any degree of ethical limit, legal limit, constitutional limit. They will only respect impeachment and criminal indictments. And that's what they need, because that's who they've become. And if they want to say nobody has immunity, fine. Then judges have no immunity. You can get sued into oblivion too. You can go to prison too. You still like that idea, judges? If you love it when you're taking it away from Trump.
But the problem is, I would like it to be taken away from judges, but would argue that it should not be taken away from Trump. But it's an asymmetrical relationship anyhow. So that's it. We'll see if it starts April 15th. I don't know. The New
York Appeals Court partially realized how embarrassing their case was, and they gave him the bond that he said he could post. Yeah. Now they should have done the right thing and just stayed the case pending appeal, given how absurd and asinine the case is and how embarrassing it is to the city and state of New York. But I mean, these people are just so clueless. They don't understand what they're doing to their own society.
Robert, everyone knows this because they've probably seen my vlog and my tweet on this, or tweets. Engoron, in his ruling, it wasn't just $355 million plus interest. Barred, Weisselberger, whatever that guy's name is, and there's another one, I forget his name now, barred them from being able to do business, up be on the board of directors of any company in New York for 3 years. Barred Trump and his kids from being, being on the board or involved in companies for 3 years. Barred Trump from borrowing from banks in New York as he's expected to postpone. I mean, it's such an obvious, in-your-face, transparent, manufactured bankruptcy, whatever you want to call it, that it's juvenile. It's beyond anything you'd expect out of North Korea.
You can't find a single example of Putin ever doing this to anyone in Russia.
No, that's what I'm saying.
He's been accused of it, but there's no comparable scale. There's no case as abusive as this case towards Trump.
A kangaroo court ruling of $450 million and then a prohibition on borrowing from banks in New York for 3 years. I mean, New
York courts look like 18th century Australia, 19th century Australia, all kangaroos and railroads. And that's all you're getting. And it's embarrassing. We'll see if the Georgia Appeals Court has any common sense, more so than the New York Appeals Court did. The New York Appeals Court just, stopped the
reduce
embarrassment.
For those who don't know,
reducing the bond and then Trump had one of his classic Trump moments. Somebody said, "How are you going to post that bond, Trump?" He said, "Cash." It's good to be rich.
For those who don't. And also, just for those who don't know, the bond was reduced to $175 million, which he'll post.
And by the way, this is election interference. This is a conspiracy. What they've accused Trump and January 6th defendants of is what they are doing right now and what they did in 2020, just on different level, different means, different method. And that is using the legal system to not only defame and smear Trump in the court of public opinion with these bogus cases, not only to tie him up so he can't campaign by having to be present for these week-long, month-long cases, but also denying him and depriving him access. Part of that is my theory as to why they delayed the approval of Truth. Because now Truth, as soon as it got public, what's happening? To the moon is the market value. People have confidence in Trump. But he can't sell it or use it as a basis to borrow money now for 6 months. And now he's denied access from using his New York real estate or even the New York banks, which is every bank, pretty much. Every big bank has offices in New York. So this is the whole goal, is to keep him from having money to be able to self-fund his campaign. So this is we've never seen anything like this in American legal history. Every one of these judges belongs behind bars.
It is transparent to the point where Kim Jong-un is laughing. Yeah. Oh, prevent him from borrowing. And people were hypothesizing that the amount of the award was roughly how much he had in the coffers for the election. I think it was much more than that. But anyhow, that's the gag order. So that's not the gag order. That's the appeal reducing the staying a portion of the interim judgment. So he only has to put up $175 million. All of those restrictive covenants as relates to getting involved in business and borrowing stayed. Okay.
Good Logic's a New York lawyer, and he does media coverage. Maybe he should bring a suit, challenge, motion to intervene, and demanding changing of the gag order and of various orders trying to seal documents in the case, because he's been covering this case in the media and the press. He himself is a lawyer, so he wouldn't need to hire counsel. He could represent himself pro se, and Good Logic could bring the case saying, "I want access to Trump's words, because I'm entitled to this and the public is entitled to this about things that are not the permissive scope of a gag order." I think that'd be perfect for Good Logic to do. If he ends up in jail, we'll bail you out.
He might have to flee New York. Okay, so that's the gag. That's the appeal. And then we got the other appeal coming out of Georgia. Sadow drafted a very wonderful argument brief. I mean, it's effectively the outline of what we've all been noticing and assessed from the original reading of McAfee's ruling, is that it's contradicted by the terms of its own ruling, that you can't... He got it wrong. As a matter of fact, there was an actual conflict, not just an appearance, but even if there was only an appearance, it warranted disqualification. Williams, that jurisprudence, gave sufficient directives to allow for disqualification. What else? I mean, they go through it thoroughly. They've made the motion to the Georgia Court of Appeal now that McAfee has issued the certificate of immediate review, whatever it's called, and it requires one of the three panel to say, yes, we'll take it. Robert, add whatever you want to add and make your prediction as to what the Georgia Court of Appeal is going to do with this motion.
The real question is how much political. If you get a conscientious court, and I mean conscientious just about the law, then they easily grant the appeal and kick her off the case and require the case to be started all over again by different counsel, because it contaminates the entire grand jury process as well, and that contaminates the indictment.
Uh-oh. Where'd Barnes go? Am I gone or is Barnes gone? Oh, Barnes is definitely gone because now my screen. What Barnes was going to say is if the Georgia Court of Appeals is not a judicially corrupt, compromised entity, they will do what Scott McAfee ought to have done, and they will yeet Fani Willis from the file. I should not use the word yeet. They'll boot Fani Willis's Fani from the file because she ought to have been booted. And Sadow's motion it's fantastic. I mean, you want to read it. It's just concise, to the point, lays out the facts, lays out the arguments, and lays out where Scott McAfee got it wrong and was a coward for having not come to the decision he had to come to. People were hypothesizing that now I'm getting a little nervous because Barnes hasn't come back. Let's see if the feds have come for Barnes. You still alive? Question mark. But I know Barnes is going to say that if the Georgia Court of Appeal has any street savvy or political acuity, they will kick Fani Willis out of the file. Some people are saying it's just amazing that despite all of this, she hasn't willingly withdrawn from the file because she's compromised the very office that she purports to protect and represent. But of course, people, she's a role model for all Black women. She's the face of this feminist movement, and she compares herself to Jesus. Let me see. Getting a little nervous here. Okay, I texted Barnes. We'll see when he gets back to here. But while Barnes does that, let me look. It's a good time as any. Holy sweet merciful goodness! Let's catch up on some Rumble rants until Barnes gets back. The next topic is RFK, so I don't want to get there before he gets there. Hall 86. Oh no, Matrix got Barnes. Then we got RL Kennerly says. Geez, Barnes isn't back. I'll come back in a second. I can't open two screens. Are y'all familiar with Letitia James' bullying of nonprofit VDare? Would you consider doing a sidebar with Lydia Brimlow? 1,000% RL Kenny. I'm screen grabbing this now. Lydia Brimlow, and I'm going to open up a window and Google that so that I know to do that. Sidebar, I'll bring her on for an interview any day of the week. I'm going to leave that window open backwards. Barnes is in the back. Let me bring him in. Robert, sir, well, I'll get through some of the chats while we're doing this. Ordered some food from Amos Miller for my family. They all agreed to order more if they like to support his. If they like to support his family, his fight in his family. That's from some guy with cancer, dude. I hope you. Well, I guess nobody's going to make their name some guy with cancer. So Godspeed and fight hard. And let us know how things go. Some guy with cancer. Randy Edward. Napoleon came to power because the French bureaucracy was introduced to the guillotine system, justice system that is reserved for tyrants. Now we know why. Randy Edward. Jeeton. I second the notion that you look into Judge Del Thomas. It's unbelievable precedent he is trying to set. Done. King of Biltong. $30 this week. Thank you very much, by the way. And I'm going to go pick up the order tomorrow. I know it arrived. I got an email today. Good afternoon from Anton's Meat and Eat. Free shipping for your Biltong with code VIVA on Biltong USA and Anton USA. Biltong, a perfect pairing of high-protein keto carnivore. Little guy says, here is the link to the videos on Judge Domatinus. Let me open up a window for that. And we got King of Biltong is now a monthly supporter. Biltong, Godspeed and thank you. Let me just open up another window. Put that one in here, and I'm going to watch that afterwards. without a doubt. Okay, boom. Robert. So no, is Bar? Oh, you're still there. You are there, Robert, right? Okay, you're moving. So I thought I saw your frozen face. I was like, I predicted that your answer was going to be if the Georgia Court of Appeal has any political IQ above room temperature, they're going to yeet Fani from the file and restore confidence. So I'm going to say they're not going to do it.
We've seen very little courage or competency competency these courts. I mean, it's been striking and extraordinary. It's revealed the scale of the problem. You know, is that we've often had a problem with courts that are partisan, with courts that are prejudiced. The having courts that are politically daft, that are politically clueless, that don't recognize how they are being perceived. When you realize that you're trying to lock up the leading candidate for the presidency of the United States, and that every time there's an indictment, his poll ratings go up, you should step back and realize, maybe we're making a mistake here by letting these partisan corrupt prosecutions go forward based on novel, unprecedented legal theories. But they are so clueless. They are so much in their own world that they have no understanding. They've become very much like the let them eat cake elites of pre-revolutionary France that didn't understand the scope and scale of the problems that they were going to be facing based on their own actions. And if the Georgia appeals court, like the New York appeals court, like the New York trial courts, keeps trying to either split the baby or not take meaningful remedial action, it's just going to maximize pressure on the Supreme Court to just say, okay, enough of this nonsense. Let's not embarrass the American legal system to an irreparable degree. And let's, at least as to these cases, and proceed. But we're going to see in the same capacity, same context, whether the courts will be protective of the public's right to choose who they want for president without legal and election interference by this lawfare system in the Robert Kennedy cases that are to go.
And before we get there, Robert, I want to show you one thing. I listened. I don't read anymore. I listened to the letters from Birmingham, Martin Luther King Jr. in jail. I think now I understand what Trump was channeling in his mugshot. Am I crazy, or do you think he was channeling MLK Jr.?
Well, I'm sure in a certain way, and he definitely did. Like, you haven't seen him put that face out before, right? So he clearly had prepared for that, was ready for that, was intending to make it marketable. They thought it would be embarrassing, and instead it was a boost. And it just reveals that the irony with all this is Trump is not that troublesome to a lot of people in power. He just doesn't defer and bow to them. And that alone offends them so much that it reminds me some of what this, like what the British did to Ben Franklin. I mean, Ben Franklin was a classic Anglophile, and they decided to publicly humiliate him because he didn't make sure that the American government completely bowed to the Brits, the American people, as a colony, didn't completely cower to the Brits every time they demanded. And by publicly humiliating him, they converted him from an ally to their lead adversary. And it helped lead the American Revolution. And so it just, that's how dumb these people are. They're and the only question is whether they blow up the American legal system, the American political process, and maybe the whole world while they're at it, because they're that dangerous when you have corrupt, stupid elites. That when you have idiocracy in power, that's when things get a little frightening.